What's your sugar mama story? Story 1. I've been working at a restaurant for over a year and a half now, and the same elderly couple comes in at least 3 times per week. They're both probably in their 70s at least. The woman is always in nice fur coats and has different jewelry all the time, but is kind of losing herself to her age. I don't think she has dementia quite yet, but she's not quite all there anymore. The man is constantly leading her around, walking her to their regular booth, helping her order, etc. Found out recently, the poor old guy lives in his car. Basically, this woman pays for him to have a few meals with her each week in exchange for his companionship. It's kind of like a weird elderly escort deal they've got going on. It's sad, but in a weird way kind of sweet, as I've noticed he gets very protective over her and seems to genuinely care for her. He keeps all of her receipts for her, makes sure she gets exactly what she wants, and always makes sure she gets her 1.5 scoops of vanilla ice cream for dessert. How the guy survives living mostly in his car in Minnesota winters is probably solely due to help from this woman. Story 2. When I was 19, I dated a 35-year-old lady. She was not super rich herself, but her dad was, and she was very much a daddy's girl. Anyway, her dad was a realtor who made a ton of money by war profiteering. Essentially, rich people sell huge houses at a massive loss in unstable countries when they think conflict is getting too local. Her father would buy the home cheap, and if it survived the war, he would turn around and sell them with huge margins after the conflict settled. That was his business. Anyway, he kept up with his rich clients and sold them vacation mansions in the States later on. Rich folk have such money to waste. He then paid his daughter, my girlfriend, $800 a month to check in on the client's mansions once a month or so to make sure the mansion hadn't burned down or something. Keep in mind, his clients lived in Dubai/London and never came to their vacation home in the States a single time in 20+ years, despite spending all of the money to get them furnished and everything. So me and my girlfriend would go to the mansion and just sleep in the mansion for a while sometimes. I've known other well-off people, but to this day, I have not set foot in another home as huge as that fucking mansion. Their master bathroom had a separate room where the entire ceiling would shower water. 50 people could all shower at the same time there. I got to shower there by myself on several occasions. Story 3. In my early 20s, I met an older woman around mid-40s in a bar. She was drinking alone, and I stood by her to order a drink. She leaned over and gave me all kinds of compliments about my body. I said thanks, and that she looked great too. She gave me her business card, realtor, and told me to text her around 2 a.m. I did. She rolled up to my place in a super nice Benz. Woke up and she was gone. Next weekend she texted me an address and to be there at 8 p.m. and to clear my entire weekend for her. I did. She had a really nice 8-bedroom house. She was wild, taught me a thing or two, and let me explore all kinds of shit I didn't even know I was interested in. The next weekend, same thing. I showed up and she had so much stuff for me. Really nice high-end clothes and shoes. She also bought all kinds of kinky toys for me to use on her too. She made me into a half-assed dom, and I would tie her up and do just about anything I wanted to. We had a good time. Then she fell off the face of the earth. I don't regret it one bit. She was really nice and spoiled the shit out of me. She made me food and would bring it to me while I was in bed. Massaged my body damn near every day. She would sleep in a different room, and between the sexual times we would have long, lengthy conversations about anything and everything. Story 4. 6 or so years ago, I was just out of college in Southern California, living with my grandpa, and asked out a Chinese grad student after meeting her at work. On our second date, she picked me up in a shiny black Audi, said her parents leased it for her. We went to a Chinese restaurant. I had paid for food on our first date and just assumed I would keep on doing so, despite making $15/hour at the time, because I'm a grade below ODED, Korean, American man. So when she started ordering lobster, duck, and enough food to feed 8, I started getting a bit nervous. The check came and I reached for it, but she snatched it away. Got out her wallet and pulled out 3 Benjamins like it was nothing. And when she did that, I couldn't help but catch a glimpse of the stack of crisp bills, all which seemed to have a similar pattern, / Benjamin Franklin's bald head peeking out the top. She had to have had at least 2 GS in there. I don't like going to the bank, so I just get it all at once, she said. I had way less in my name than she had in her wallet Lamau. Anyway, she paid for the $200 plus meal and let me have the leftovers. Had my meals set for next week. She eventually would pay for Disneyland tickets, Laker games, and some fantastic meals before till 5 months later she graduated, her student visa expired, and she went back to China. She was really down to earth too. Once we went to a spot near downtown and she street parked in Skid Row. I advised against it, motioning to the homeless encampments, but she said it was no big deal. Chill. Her English was good enough to hold a conversation, but once we were lying in bed, and it was kind of a lull, and she said out of the blue, "I'm funnier in Chinese," which I thought was hilarious, but also sad. Mainly because of that, we didn't text much outside of planning our weekends. I sometimes wondered whether she had 2 or 3 boyfriends. She was just cycling through lol. She didn't have Facebook, only Weibo, or some other Chinese social media. I texted her a few years ago, but the normally blue bubbles were now green. Still, we had a lot of fun, and she helped get me through those post-grad broke-ass blues. Hope she's doing all right. Story 5. This happened in Tokyo around 5 or 6 years ago. Met a client at work when I was 26 or 27. She was 32 or 33. She was really cute, very smart and educated, and we got on very well together. She was a bit of a train geek. She liked riding trains. Fairly common in Japan, but rare for a woman. She had a lot of cute quirks like that. She could tell you the make and model of every pantograph on every train in operation in Japan. Anyone who knows Japanese politics has heard her name before. I didn't know who she was when we first met, but my boss later on told me to treat her like a VIP at all times. Anyway, our work project wrapped up, and we decided to go out for a bite at a nearby restaurant. She tells me she needs help preparing for an interview at a very famous company for a very unique role that they would essentially be creating just for her. I told her I'd be happy to help her with it. I didn't have any ulterior motives. I genuinely liked her and wanted her to succeed. We met up again to do the interview prep, and one more final practice after that. She invited me to play darts with her after we finished, since she apparently enjoyed darts and I'd never played before. We went out to a darts bar in the early evening, and somehow we ended up playing a game where the loser of the game had to drink tequila shots. She mopped the floor with me, but we both started doing shots until well past the last train home. Eventually, we wound up going to an internet cafe to spend the rest of the night, but things progressed pretty quickly. She got touchy-feely, and we decided to get out of there and go to a hotel together. And so began our relationship. She turned out to be richer than God. She would buy all kinds of stuff for me, would never let me pay for dates even though I was making very good money for my age, and wanted to take me on all kinds of trips around Asia. She bought me some very nice watches and clothes which I still have and cherish to this day. She had a Benz and an Aston Martin and some other cars just lying around in her parking spaces in the middle of Tokyo. Probably would have married her if it weren't for some complications with her marital status. I found out about that after a few weeks of dating. It was a bit of a tragedy, really. It turned out she was in a terrible, loveless marriage and had a young child. I found out about it after we'd already been going out for a while. At first, it made me uncomfortable to be in that situation, but I started to understand that she was trapped in it, and due to societal pressure, she had no real way of divorcing. Neither of them wanted to continue their marriage, and both of them were seeing other people, but due to their very high profile in the Japanese media, a divorce was out of the question. We ended up breaking up when we realized having a kid together would cause irreversible damage to her political career, and that a divorce to marry a white guy would be the end for her professionally. That really sucked, but it was the truth. She was the best girlfriend I've ever had. If I'd met her 3 years earlier, I'm sure my life would have been completely different now. Not for the money, couldn't care less about that. I've never met someone I connected with so well. Really the one that got away. Story 6. I got a free personal training session at Equinox Gym. This woman working out there must have been working the same routine I was doing, because during the session, we ran into each other non-stop at the same benches/machines, joking about it a ton, eventually then chatting her up at the end of the session. Super pretty and fit 41-year-old, incredibly intelligent, with her own private practice doing sex therapy. We seem to click. I'm 26. After my session, the trainer/salespeople allowed me to stay and keep working out on my own. Then this therapist lady makes her way back to me prod since the trainer was gone, and we continue talking and exchange numbers to get together sometime. I figure what the hell, may as well try for this one. No more than 5 replies into our first text conversation, she straight up tells me I'm cute and she's always busy, so she's looking for a casual hookup relationship with me. I tell her, oh, how convenient, I'm in the same boat. Luckily, she lives pretty close by too. So I've been going to hers about once a week for the last 2 months or so just to have sex and hang out. Oh, and she's also really into the zodiac and tarot cards. And she likes to analyze me and eventually wants to read my cards. Whatever, small price to pay, and it actually is pretty interesting and sorta sexy when she talks about it. Now, this wasn't a sugar mama type relationship at first, but we started going out to dinner just for fun, and even though it's not datey really, she's paid for everything since. Then it evolved into buying me some nice things, nothing too personal like clothes, but she's gotten me some nice bottles of wine, scotch, a candle she liked, nice gift type things. Well, this week these gifts just went a step further. She's going to Barbados in February, and after jokingly saying I'd love to go, she booked me a ticket because, well, she says she felt like it. I'm also an avid surfer, so she wants me to surf all morning, while she sleeps in, then basically bang her on different parts of the island. I'm dropping $0. She's adamant about not having a relationship outside of a casual one though, for numerous reasons it isn't for her, and having spent enough time with her, I think she's genuine, and I believe her. She definitely likes to spend money on me, but not in frivolous ways like more clear-cut sugar mamas. Still, I think the situation fits well enough to comment about. Who knows, maybe she'll start funding my business.